cement. It's not going to be a building out in the middle of the preserve. And the key about those 10 miles of public walking trails is I talked a little bit about the cattle ranching originally. Cattle ranching means that all of those trees, everything has been affected by the environment of the animals that were there. And so you have a lot of invasive species that are taking over, plants that are taking over, wild boars, things like that, that aren't part of what Florida was meant to be. So we have hired a company that's spending they're almost done, they've been at it for 4 years, they've got about 2.5 more years, to get rid of every invasive leaf, root, and everything so that it is pure and natural Florida. There's a great hiking trail called the Ocean to Lake Trail that for a long time, that watershed area has been blocked off because of what they did with the cattle ranches, and we have restored the natural flow of water there. So we take it really seriously, and I did. I came into office as a tree hugger, really concerned about how can I build a building to make sure that we have affordable housing for our residents, but also take care of our trees. And I think that our city does a really good balance of that with smart land planning. And one of the things that Candace and I both got to spearhead, and I don't think we both knew we were doing it, is we have a lot of passive space, like lots of green space that is just mowed lawn. And we are able to have the city build a butterfly habitat. So we feel really passionate about pollinators, bees, and butterflies and how important they are to the environment. So we opened up our butterfly habitat about in April, I think, and it's beautiful. And so it was just mowed lawn, right, for the longest time. And now when you go there, it's about the size of this area, and it's full of butterflies and little trails and opportunities to engage and educate young kids. So yeah, it's great. I think that you can have a balance. The reason why you have to have development, you guys know 11,000 people a year minimum are moving to Palm Beach County. 1,000 people a day are moving to the state of Florida, right? So we need to accommodate for everybody that's coming. And everybody that's coming we don't want, how do I say this nicely? There are a lot of like $1 million homes here, right? That's great, but that's not for everybody. We need to make sure that everybody has access to this beautiful city, and I think that's what we're really doing with our smart planning and with really maintaining the green spaces. Yes? Great, that's a great question. So her question is, what is our plan for affordable housing? Want me to keep going? All right, so our affordable housing, what we did was in 2009, City Council started thinking about how we're going to move residents so that they have access to everything. What that has turned into is in 2022, we put in something called the Transit-Oriented Development Overlay. We were talking about Loman's Plaza, downtown at the Gardens, that whole area. That's where we want our workforce housing. So every single apartment that's growing in that area, we have set out the roadmap for the developers. Okay, you want to build here, you want to come to Palm Beach Gardens, you need to put in workforce housing. So the building that you see going up right now when you drive by is 294 units, is that right? It's like 264 units. 10%, 11% of those are going to be workforce housing. That whole, yeah, go ahead. What do you mean? Oh, so it's all based on what the area median income is. But that we want our government employees, we want students to come back home, we want people to be able to afford to come back in. The best part of that location, though, is we'd like a train station there one day. And I'm working really, really hard on that. That's where I'm spending about 50% of my time, is encouraging Brightline to actually stop right here in Palm Beach Gardens, because that would give someone who lives in that little area access to go to work in Orlando, to go to work in Miami, to get anywhere they need to go without getting into a car. So that also makes life a little bit more affordable. What's going to happen in that corridor? Remember I said if you stand at downtown at the Gardens and you look around now and you come back in a couple of years, you're going to see a bunch of taller buildings all around you. Almost every single one of those tall buildings, as we approve them, will have mandatory 10% affordable housing or workforce housing in them. Electric vehicle chargers, sustainable initiatives, everything that you need to have a comfortable, happy society with access to transportation and to be able to afford to live here. Good question. Did I answer it okay? Okay, great. Do you want to keep asking questions? I totally feel what you're saying. Okay, so, yeah. Oh, I completely agree. So the question was, You know, if you drive on PGA and Elson Wilson, which I've done probably 5 gajillion times in my life, I'm embarrassed how many times I've taken that right turn. When I was a kid, by the way, that was a broken down motorcycle gang house on that corner. And people would be sleeping on the front lawn. It's changed over the years. But nonetheless, I feel what she's saying. So she said, how do you look at this area that had nature or had trees, and then you guys approve a building where they're going to knock down those trees or remove the nature to put in a tall building as opposed to being able to see everything around you? That's a really valid question and something I struggled with quite a bit. And here's what I'll tell you. The City of Palm Beach Gardens and our City Council, we don't own the land, right? So if you bought that land, you can leave it however you want it to be. What we can do is we can enforce zoning and restrictions on what that land looks like, right? Like we talked about Avenir originally. They wanted to come in with tens of thousands of houses and take over all the land, and we said, no, no, no. You're going to do 51%, you're going to give us 10 miles of walking space, public access walking trails. So we fight back all the time. One thing, who does debate in here? No one's a, oh yeah, okay. When you do debate, or when you have an issue, usually not everybody's happy with the outcome, right? So let's talk about that corner specifically. That corner was not part of City of Palm Beach Gardens. That was Palm Beach County. Candace talked about that a little bit. Unincorporated Palm Beach County, Palm Beach Gardens. That whole area went through the development process with Palm Beach County with all of their zoning requirements. And right before they were going to finish it, they called us up and said, we'd rather this be City of Palm Beach Gardens. So we absorbed them. When that happened, we were able to help a little bit, but we couldn't do too much to change it. What's good about what's going in there is what it is zoned for is taller, more dense. So I think there are 106 units in there that will go in eventually. But it would have probably been, originally, the original application was like 15 stories high with like 1,300. I mean, it was massive. So we're able to reduce the impact. But like I said, I can't even ban a straw or a plastic bag. And I could go to Tallahassee all I want to rattle the cages and do everything. But you pick your battles. I think in the end, you'll be delighted at how nice it will look in the end. The great thing about that location is I think it's kind of cost prohibitive. I think they start at $4 million. So the people who live there, they're not going to be home a whole lot, and they're not going to add more trips on the road. They're not going to make the traffic worse. And you can't make anybody happy either. Like we just approved 111 townhouses on the western end of North Lake Boulevard. It was originally zoned to be a commercial building that would have had 1,200 trips on the road. That means 1,200 cars coming and going every single day. And then the neighbors said, we don't want that. We don't want that many cars. And we said, okay, well, we're going to look at it again. So the developer came back to the city and they said, okay, we're going to put in townhouses here that are 225 townhouses. And we said, no, we don't like that. So they came back again. And then they came to 125 townhouses. And we said, nope, we don't like that either. Now they're down to 111 townhouses with almost no trips on the road. The townhouses are going to be affordable in an area where all the houses are $1 to $2 million. We're like, okay, this looks like a good solution. We're going to have housing that people can actually afford in an area where all of the houses are expensive. We're going to have less trips on the road. And then, believe it or not, the neighbors with the $1 and $2 million houses found out that there would be affordable townhouses nearby, and guess what they did? They emailed us and said, we don't want people like that around us. So it's a constant battle, and I approved it. It was unanimous. Our entire council approved those townhouses in that spot because people need to have options for housing. It is challenging, I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's hard, and as a tree hugger, it's been tough. Oh no, I'm sorry. We don't want to give anyone a label. Any other questions in the back?
What do you consider affordable?
What?
What do you consider affordable?
Personally, there is a definition. It's called area median income, right? So area median income means that you base affordability based on the salaries around you. And that is how it is done at the state and how it is done on paper. So that's a great question, and it changes every year. It's a bit of a moving target, but I'll tell you what, you guys, in the City of Palm Beach Gardens, salaries are high. So the area median income here ranges anywhere from $68,000 a year to $210,000 a year, depending on how many people live in your home. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes? Yeah. Oh my gosh, okay, so this is, I'm totally geeking out. So she asked what kind of transportation is coming and what do we want and what do we see and what do we have, right? Okay, so first of all, what do we have? We have PalmTran. Does anyone even know that we have a bus system here? Right, okay, so we'll start with PalmTran. PalmTran is about to fight for their lives. The county has been financing a large portion of PalmTran for I think about 7 years. I could be wrong on that date, because it costs a lot of money to run a bus system, right? And PalmTran has actually 3 modes of transportation. You have the big buses that you see, like at the Gardens Mall, that come around. There's a second one, which is the transportation disadvantaged route. That's the smaller buses that have people who have different abilities or have hardships at home that they need to be picked up. And then the third one is something called Go Glades. So I'm going to go through each of those 3, and this will take a second, but it'll make a lot of sense when you're done, and I'd love to hear your opinions on this. The big buses, like I said, the county has been subsidizing that. The county just reduced their taxes, and they're also looking at really refining their budget, which means they're trimming off any fat, and they're looking at PalmTran to be trimmed, because what we do not have in this area is we do not have consistent, reliable transportation. Consistent, reliable transportation means that if you go to a bus stop in 15 minutes, a bus is going to come pick you up and take you where you need to go. So PalmTran is going through a huge redo to assess their routes, to make sure that the routes that are in place are actually going to get people where they need to be, and that there's a consistent pickup every 15 minutes or so. Will that happen? I don't know. I don't work there, but I am helping with that a lot. Number 2, the transportation disadvantaged buses. Those are the smaller buses. Those are called mobility on demand. Mobility on demand means you pick up your phone or you pick up an app and a car or a bus comes to get you. Uber is an example of mobility on demand. That TD program, the Transportation Disadvantaged Program, is for people who have a disability, for seniors, for people going through medical care, or for even kids who have a difficult time at home and can't get somewhere. I chair the Transportation Disadvantaged Board for the county, and I'll tell you we're fighting really hard to keep it. The county commission is looking at cutting funding to that as well. And then there's one more, which is Go Glades, which is out in the Glades, and that is mobility on demand, and it is a success story. I don't know how many people spend time in the Glades. A lot of the folks who live there don't have access to mobility or transportation. And Go Glades, and I might be wrong on the number, I think it's $2 anywhere you go. Go Glades will get you all around the Glades, and it's an app, and they pick you up at your front door and they take you somewhere. So, $2.50, thank you. Okay, so that's amazing. So that's what I think the future of transportation will hold as we refine it. Again, I mentioned I chair the TPA, our Transportation Planning Agency. We have funded, I think we're up to 8 electric buses now that are going to be coming on service in the county. So we're working on sustainability, we're working on getting people around more safely. Here's the thing though. There's a road I started working on 5 years ago to get bike lanes, and it's going to get bike lanes in 2 years. I'll be out of office pretty much by then. I've got about 2 more years left on my term. Changing a roadway, changing a bike, changing a bus, it is the biggest uphill battle that I've ever fought, and it does happen, but it is slow. It is so slow. But there are ways you guys can get involved. So when we're done, we're going to be sending your teachers some things you guys can do. There's an interactive transportation map for the county. So if you're sitting on a corner and you see a dangerous intersection, if you see a pothole in the sidewalk, if you are just sick of being stuck in the ramp on I-95, there's a map for that where your voice can actually matter. So we'll be sharing that with your teachers so that you guys can actually have a voice in transportation. The TPA gets that comment, and we make sure that that roadway owner fixes it. So don't give up hope. So I went off topic. Okay, so those are our buses. Then we have Tri-Rail. Has anyone taken Tri-Rail? Okay, has anyone taken it recently? Like in the last 6 months or so? It got better, right? It got better. It's getting better. It stops, as you guys know, in West Palm. So the reason why everything stops in Palm Beach Gardens is because we're one traveling public. So you've got Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. Guess what Miami and Dade have that we don't have? They have a transportation surtax. A transportation surtax means that you spend anywhere from a half a penny to a penny more on your sales tax, which means even tourists, whoever comes through the county would pay for it. They have that in Miami-Dade, Broward. So they have Brightline coming up and down. They have commuter rail. They have people movers. They have mobility on demand, and they have all that because they can get matching federal funds for that. We can't. So what would I love to see? I don't know. Do we want more taxes? If we had more taxes, it would probably be a transportation surtax. If we had that, we would have commuter rail here. Tri-Rail would be able to go all the way up, stop at Palm Beach Gardens, stop at Lake Park, stop in a couple of other places. Jupiter doesn't want it, but there are several places that do want to have commuter rail, so that if I was like, hey, let's just go to the Gardens Mall real quick, and then I want to go to Miami, you'd say, okay, let's go. And we'd be there in half an hour, and we'd spend about $3. That's what we want for the future. Now, Brightline's another story. Brightline is a private rail company. When they talk about providing services, they know they're not providing it for everybody. It is a little bit cost prohibitive. I think one of the least expensive tickets you can get are about $50 to get from Miami to Orlando, and you'd have to plan that far ahead. I just took it the other night, and I paid $170 to get to Orlando at 10 o'clock at night. I got there. It was lovely. And as far as Brightline goes, they are now going from Miami to Orlando. They're soon going to be going from Miami to Orlando to Tampa. And the city of Palm Beach Gardens would very much like them to stop in Palm Beach Gardens. We feel like we've got the ridership and the financial structure to be able to hold them. So I'm pitching them on Wednesday, actually. So cross your fingers that, would you guys like a Brightline station here? Yes? Yeah, who has ridden Brightline? Oh, did you do the fancy car? Anyone do the fancy car? Okay, do it one time. It cost me a ton, but it was worth it. Any other questions? Thank you, that was a great question. Yes? Sorry? The city limits?
Okay, so the question she's asking about the city limits out west, where the mayor was just discussing Avenir. So Avenir has the beautiful fountains and bougainvillea, and it's got two kind of like tower-looking things at the entrance. Have you seen that? Yes, it has. Yes, the fire pit. That is the end. That's where Palm Beach Gardens stops, basically. That neighborhood, and then across the street there's Rustic Lakes and what's the other one? Rustic Lakes, and then starts with a B. Can't remember it. Okay. Bay Hill Estates. That's where we end. I think it's Coconut. That's the road. Everything further west is not Palm Beach Gardens. And we will not go any further west than that. So we just did some redevelopment, which when we say redevelopment, every parcel of land in this city, they assign a code to it. This right here is for agriculture. This area here is for public. So this school property we're on, it has a public use. This whole area right here, we're going to do residential, so these will all be houses. And the reason they do that is so that you can still have, say, factories that you need to keep society going, but you don't want factories next to houses, right? Those aren't two uses that are compatible. So every parcel of land gets a use designated to it. That's what our planning and zoning division does. They look at compatible uses, and we just rezoned. When we say rezoned, that means we sometimes we look at the land use and we might change it so that maybe there's a project that's a better fit for how our city has grown and how society has changed. When we redevelop, that means sometimes that there's an existing area of land that, like Loman's Plaza, it was for commercial, for shops and stores, and now we're saying, you know, the way our city is growing, we want to change, we want to rezone that, and we want to redevelop. So redevelop means we're going to take down what's there, and we're going to build something new there. Redevelopment is also what's happening at downtown at the Gardens. Have you been there and seen all the construction fences? And okay, so that area is old. It's been there I don't know how long, but it's gotten older, and they wanted to revitalize it. Right, it was getting kind of a little run down, a little predictable. And they said, you know, we want to take some of these old things that we've been doing commercially. We're going to put some new. We've got Lifetime Fitness. We have an REI now, which is awesome. They were planning some apartments. I think that part of the plan is up in the air, but we don't know what's going to happen there. So if that answers your question, the western boundary, that's where it ends. And I think if you go, it's county, it's not incorporated. They were going to do, they were looking at doing the city of Loxahatchee, town of Loxahatchee, but I don't think that's going to happen now. And then when you keep going further, that's Westlake, which is incorporated. They are a newly incorporated city. So that was county, and then they got together. People have to vote. Well, there's different ways to do it, but anyway, they're a city now. They're incorporated. I don't want to go too deep because I know it's just a lot of details. Okay, I know we're gonna. Oh, okay.
There is a map for that too, by the way, which we can share with your teachers. There's a map that tells you all the different boundaries, and there are a lot of other data in the map as well. Everything from salaries to safe bicycle routes to sidewalks and all kinds of things like that. So I'll be sure to share that with your teachers. And I did want to share, I forgot to, so we have a couple of classes that are taking finance this semester, right? Or was it economics? What was
Yes,
the?
finance, economics.
Finance? Finance, okay, so two things. The city of Palm Beach Gardens has lowered taxes for the last 2 years, so that's a big deal. Your property taxes have actually reduced in the city of Palm Beach Gardens, even though your homes probably are worth more than ever. And then a personal push that happened on city council. I was talking to your professor earlier. We do our budget every September. That's actually pretty much the most important thing a city council member does. And personally, I went back and I watched about 15, 16 years of budget hearings in the city of Palm Beach Gardens to get an understanding, of where we were, where we are now, and what the future could look like for the city. And people don't come to our city council meetings. I don't know why. I think they're really exciting. But yeah, no one comes. But you can come and you can speak for 3 minutes and have a public comment anytime you want. I know there's some kids coming possibly to our next meeting to talk about the hours for the skateboard park. And I encourage you guys, if there's something you see, to do that. Nonetheless, so I'm watching all these videos, and our city, as Candace said, does not control anything that the school district does. But people came to council again and again asking for help for schools. And our city has really not ever given any funding to the schools except for project graduation. So I went to our city manager, and our city manager runs the day-to-day of the city. He's kind of like the boss of the city, so we have over 600 full-time staff, and he's in charge of them as well as all of our part-time staff and the ethos of the city, really. And I went to him and I said, you know, I'm looking at the budget, and I see that we have about $5,000 of discretionary spending every year that our council is not putting anywhere. And I would like you to bring it to city council, because everything requires a vote of the 5 of us, that we have 9 public schools in the city of Palm Beach Gardens. It would mean a lot to the residents if we could get $5,000 a year for each of the 9 public schools. So that took me about 3 months of fighting behind doors to get that to happen, which it then went to city council, and I had to present it to my city council, and we're beholden by something called sunshine laws, so the council, we can never discuss anything that we might ever vote on. So dinner conversation can be kind of awkward, but nonetheless, so I brought it to council, and believe it or not, all 5 of them supported it. So at our next city council meeting, we'll start distributing $5,000 a year to one of each of our 9 public schools for the next 9 years, and that will cycle through again and again and again. So while we're talking about finance, I want you guys to figure out how you squeeze $5,000 out of a really, really tight budget. But it'll be a pleasure, and I hope Dwyer is up at the tippy top so that we can see you guys do something great with that money. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. I want to ask you all some questions. Who's on social media? Most of you. Okay. We're gonna see which one's the most popular. Who's on X, formerly known as Twitter? Still got some people. Okay. Y'all are hanging on. Who's on Threads? The new X. I'm on Threads. Okay. I don't really post anything though. Instagram. Okay. Snapchat. Okay. TikTok. Oh, I know there's more TikTokers on here than that. Some people don't want me to look them up. I know what's going on here. What else? Facebook. Facebook, over there with the aunties like me on Facebook. Okay, the reason I asked is that one thing that we try to do in the communications, public communications department, that's my department. I'm one of 3 employees. When I started with the city 9 years ago, I was the only employee. So I've grown my department, and we engage with our residents on social media. We don't have all of them. We don't have Snapchat. We don't have Threads. Pinterest, we don't have Pinterest. Not for the city, that would be fun. We have X. We have 3 accounts. We have City Hall, Fire, and Police. The reason we have separate accounts for Fire and Police is for breaking news. The media. I deal with the media a lot, and that's what they want to know. If there's a fire, if there's, like today, there was an accident on North Lake, things that need to get out to the public really quickly. We have several accounts on Facebook, and I'm telling you this because I want you to look us up and follow us, so pay attention. We have City Hall, we have Sand Hill Crane Golf. If you're into golf, our golf course has we have a municipal golf course. We just built a second golf course out near Avenir. It's called The Nest. Have you been? You work at The Nest? Hello, fellow employee. Nice, city employee. Who else has been to The Nest? So The Nest, let me tell you, it's like Drive Shack. It's cool. You don't have to go on the Par 3 golf course. You can be at the driving range. They have like the double deck driving ranges, and you get on the little trackman machine and it simulates your shot. It's just for fun. They have food. You should be selling this. You want them out there. We need to make money. Oh, he's looking out for himself, I see. Okay, so the Sand Hill Crane has a Facebook account. Our recreation page, anyone go to our green market on Sundays? The Gardens Green Market? Cider donuts, hello. Yeah, all right. These are all of the ways, by the way, when I say we're elevating the quality of life, this is what I'm talking about. Have you been to our new aquatics complex? We reopened it this summer. Sparkle slide. You haven't been on the sparkle slide? You gotta go. If you're a Gardens resident, you get a discount on your admission for these places. Those are the things when we say we're elevating the quality of life. Are we required to have a pool? No. Should we? Yes, it's fun. Parks, all of our parks. Hold on, City Hall. Green Market has a page, Recreation has a page. And then on Instagram, City Hall has a page. So most platforms, we are at City of PBG. That's how you can find us, that's our handle. There's a question back there, yes sir, about golf? Yes. Yes, if you follow us, we will follow you back. I will make sure, because so now that I have more employees, I don't get to run the socials as much. I used to have to do it all, but I just don't have time. So the person behind our social media, her name's Kiki. If you follow us on IG and you saw that little video of the cat driving to the green market, that funny stuff, that's all Kiki. She's in her early 20s, and she's making our social media really cool. And some people say, oh, you get paid to do that? Yes, absolutely, we do get paid to do that. It's called engaging the community, and you can get paid to do that. I do sometimes. I had interns, not this summer, last summer, I had two interns that helped me out a whole bunch. We had a guy, do you guys, what's Nick's last name? RC, thank you. You know Nick RC, he graduated last year? He came and interned with the city, and he did a cool internship where he was embedded in different departments. So he'd spend like a week here. He got to do it all. Police, fire ride-alongs. He had a great time. Human resources, operations. He got to see all sides of the city. And once you see behind the scenes, you just have to admit it's really cool. Sorry to brag, but it's really cool. Any other questions for Mayor Reed? Yeah.
My students are getting 5 points extra credit for asking a question. So if you'll just encourage them a little bit more.
Oh, you know what? Okay, Chris is next. I forgot I brought something to encourage question.
Where's Ethan? Ethan, I got yours already. I got yours, Isaiah. You got yours. Anybody else? 5 points extra credit. Yeah,
Got candy. You got questions?
You did. You get lots of candy. All right. This is a you question asker. Go ahead. Okay, so that's a great question. So that's very sweet, and you get a candy. I have been mayor. I'm on my 2nd year as mayor. As Candace described, though, I don't get to run for mayor. I don't get to go out to the voters and ask for a vote to become mayor. Our city, thank you. I love it. Our city council is made of 5 people, and no, we do not always get along. You don't want us to get along, and so every year in April we do a reorganization to see who will be mayor that year, and it gets a little bit spicy, but they did keep me around for a 2nd year, which was awesome. It doesn't happen very often, and to be mayor of my hometown's been an extraordinary privilege. But you guys, anyone who's thinking about running for office, does anyone here think they'll ever run for office? Good. I love it. All right, so real quick, yeah, run for office, please. This guy has not asked one yet. Tyson.
Can you want something
Speak up, son.
we want to vote for something, or build something?
Yeah.
You know how the council got all vote? Is it a majority vote, or all 5 got vote?
Okay, good, great question. That's a really good question, actually. If you guys ever want to talk about governance and how to run a good meeting and voting, I would love to come into your classroom to talk to you specifically about that. So it is a majority vote. So if we vote on something, like when I just asked for money for the public schools, that doesn't usually happen. I had to really push hard for that. And as long as 3 out of 5 of the council members said yes, then it could happen, right? So luckily all 5 said yes, which is wonderful. But we've had some votes that you would have thought people would say yes or no. Again, we're beholden to sunshine, so even the person sitting right next to me, I have no idea what their answer is going to be when we vote on things, right? So I thought, having 50% green space was a great idea with, yada, 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 but the 4 people next to me could outvote me. So I'm only 1 of 5 votes no matter what. But that's representational democracy, right? So I was voted in to represent 60,000 people, and then it is taken to a referendum of 5 for the decision to happen. And that is the distillation of local government. Okay, Chris.
What are your plans on entertainment?
Oh, for entertainment? That's a great question. So one of the things that the city does differently is we actually do a resident survey every 2 or 3 years. And that's why I know so much about why our residents want pickleball 24/7. The other thing that they want is they want more activities from the city. And so we have a ton coming up. Again, if you follow us on social media, like Candace said, we have a 5K followed by movies in the field. We have a bunch of concerts coming up that are all free access, and we'll have food trucks and everything like that. We do that about once a month for the whole cooler months of the season. We have the Green Market every Sunday. We also are doing, I'm going to a city cookie making class on Monday night. It's how to decorate holiday cookies, right? And that's just something that the city does. So believe it or not, there's probably a ton going on. You guys just haven't gotten exposed to it yet, but follow us on socials and come decorate cookies with me on Monday night, okay? I would love to have you there. Yes, ma'am.
There, go get.
I thought she said yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the drive-up theater, yeah. Yeah, so she's talking about a drive-up theater, which I think would be great. Okay. Okay. All right, so we have a request for a drive-in theater, and we have a request for jobs to work at those events. Okay. All right, so we're asking for a little bit more access to jobs for special events at the city. That's a great idea. I really like that idea. And then we don't have the drive-in movies, but we are doing, I think we have 4 movies on the field. So it's our giant field at North County District Park, which is right there on PGA and Central, and it's open to everybody. You don't need to be a Palm Beach Gardens resident, and you bring picnic blankets and you lay out under the stars at night watching the movie. We'd love to have you guys come. All right. Say it one more time. A roller rink? I love skating. Can we have one, please? All right. I've got some. Anyone have some money? I think a roller rink would be great. But you know what I will tell you is that we are going to be having some more indoor recreation spaces. Council doesn't vote on this, but right now at that district park, they are looking at an indoor area, and there's a company called Mammoth that looks like they're going to get the contract for an indoor space that is going to have. It'll be up to them and beyond council, but it's going to be a whole area that has everything from restaurants to bars to pickleball to outdoor courts, indoor courts, basketball. I'm hoping maybe some rock walls, stuff like that. That's all guaranteed to be built within the next 4 years. So there is a ton coming. So definitely consider following on social, even if it's just for only the fun stuff, because that's the kind of stuff I can't wait for that, right? So that you know you've done on a Friday night and you can spend the night there. You can go for a run in the park, go back, have some food, relax with your friends, things like that. It's going to be so much more interactive for the next few years. Is the candy, Candace? Okay, go ahead.
Do we offer scholarships for? So no, we do not. But we have a police officer who offers personally through her foundation, Precious Washington. She offers a scholarship for anyone attending her alma mater of FAMU, and she usually puts that information out in the spring. So be on the FAMU. If you go to FAMU, she's got some thousands of dollars for you. And our Police and Fire Foundation used to do a scholarship. I'm not sure that they do it anymore. It was a 9/11 Memorial Scholarship. But the city does not, because all of the money that we have is tax dollars, taxpayers' money. So we have to be careful about how we spend it, frankly. Someone back there. Oh, Jay.
Are we doing anything like currently for the safety of manatees? Because they get like boats and everything.
Are we doing anything for the safety of manatees? Okay, we, in Palm Beach Gardens, we do not have much in the way of beaches and waterways. So the initiatives that we do tend to not be, we have a lot of canals, and you can fish. We have canals, we have lakes, but there's no manatees in them. And we have a little section of the intracoastal, but I don't know, do manatees go in the intracoastal? They do?
They do, and so just recently with this Ritz-Carlton that was going in, that's really the only area that has access to where manatees could possibly be, and I was all up in that, making sure that any seagrass was not being disturbed. That is something as a lifelong local that I think, when you guys, is everyone, who here is 18 or up, out of curiosity? Okay, yeah, who's registered to vote? Are you all registered to vote? Okay, so when you vote for people, do your research, and I'm not just tooting my own horn about being a lifelong local, but that's the kind of stuff that I'm thinking about because I grew up in the water here. And I went paddleboarding 6 years ago in the same spot in Jupiter. I've been launching, since I could launch, and there was no seagrass all of a sudden. It was the most devastating thing to ever see. So stay involved. It may not be at the local level, but if you have something you're passionate about, whether it's nature or manatees, that's where we need you guys to show up. If you guys care about something, whether it's manatees or nature, and you're just letting the decision makers decide without your voices, you're doing us a huge disservice. So my one call to action for every single person in this room Whatever you care about, do something about it. In the next month, whatever you care about, do something about it. So for the individual who cares about manatees, there's a lot happening in Jupiter and Juneau about what they can do. Go to Loggerhead, find out about that. Go to MacArthur State Beach Park, find out about that. Find out what you can do to make a difference, because what I heard today matters, but we're not going to know about it if you don't tell us. Okay? We got 5 minutes. Any other questions?
Areas like Flagler that are being gentrified, what's happening to those who are getting kicked out?
What's happening to the people in Flagler where it's being gentrified, that are getting kicked out of their houses? I don't know, because that is not our city. So I didn't know that that was an issue. But I do know that in general, as far as the rental market, we're a little limited in what we can do, because what you're going to learn in economics, there's government and then there's a private sector. And the market, commercially, there are things that government we can't do. We have to just let the market do what it does. And it's painful to watch right now with what's happening with the rental market and home buying, but I think renters are more impacted. Our city council did pass some legislation. We did what we could. We made it so that landlords had to give so much notice to residents. What was it? 90-day notice before they raise their rent, or so that they could have time to look for a place to move. That was about all we could do.
And that's when you start talking about the levels of government. Remember when we were talking about preemption, where the state of Florida doesn't allow local government like ours to decide things? Some of that is coming at the state level, but wherever that has happened, you have a voice, and you're paying taxes, your family's paying taxes. You're allowed to show up, take your 3 minutes at the City of West Palm Beach City Council meeting, go to the County Commissioners meeting. Honestly, you guys, you can make a difference. Use your voice, show up. The one thing I will tell you, though, is if you want to get something done, ask nicely. All right? The people who rattle the cages and threaten or are angry, I have a harder time listening to them, as opposed to someone who comes up to me with reason and discourse and the desire to sit down to make a better judgment call, right? So please always remember that. Respectful discourse, agree to disagree, meet in the middle. That's what I'm missing in our world today. When I was your age, government met in the middle, and now we're so polarized that we're almost at a standstill. So that would be my encouragement. So definitely get involved. Your voices matter more than ever before. And if we don't hear them, we're not going to be able to respond. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay, so question about housing. So twofold. Do you want to answer this or shall I? Okay. So the question was, how do we make everybody happy, right, when it comes to housing? We don't. Okay, that is representational democracy. That is why out of the 60,000 people, they voted for 5 people that are their city council members, and then we take those decisions and we vote for them. So those people who had the $1 to $2 million houses that didn't want the townhouses beside them, our city council and our staff made the decision to put those townhouses in anyway. For example, does anyone know where Shady Lakes Drive is in Palm Beach Gardens? It is a beautiful, meandering road with sidewalks and crosswalks and trees and flowers. It used to be pretty much like a half dirt, half concrete road in between a couple neighborhoods. When that was looking to be redone, so about 10 or 12 years ago, the city said, this is a really great opportunity to make a better roadway. Because it was this junky roadway. There was crime on it, and it was overgrown, and the residents freaked out. There's something called NIMBY. Does anyone know what NIMBY is? It means not in my backyard. I want affordable housing, not in my backyard, right? I want to make sure that this area is not gentrified, not in my backyard. So NIMBY is something you must take with you. If you learn one thing today, remember the word NIMBY, not in my backyard. So what happened with that roadway was they fought it. Like residents showed up with pitchforks at the meeting and they were so ticked off, don't put this road in my backyard. And now they love it. They love it. Not really, but that's like the Frankenstein movie where you see people that are all angry. The residents were so upset. That roadway is one of the most gorgeous things that we put in our city. The residents didn't see it at that time, and now they love it. So you have to hope that when you make these decisions, yes, I want townhouses next to the expensive houses so people have places to live. You have to hope and know. That's why folks like me got voted in, to try to make the best decision for the residents. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Good question. When are you going to run for council? You can run. Are you 18? Okay, let me know when you're ready to run.
We need thinkers.
Are you running? City council? You can? All right, give me a call. Or your mom can run. We need representation. We need people who care. And that's really all it comes down to. You have to, it's like anything else. Sorry? You care? You care about the city? All right, well then come on in.
Let me tell you what we need in local government, whether you work or you run to be elected. We need thinkers, we need people. Do you know what critical thinking is? We need thinkers, we need problem solvers. That is a skill that is difficult to come by. And especially in local government, you need that. You need people with vision who don't just look at what's here today. You have to plan years down the road. You have to have